Welcome to thepositivelearner.com. I'm Brittany, and today we're exploring how to create truly inclusive classrooms through a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens, focusing on three essential areas: differentiation, feedback, and advocacy. Before we begin, I want to remind you that you can pause this presentation at any time to take notes or capture screenshots of anything you'd like to revisit later. Also, while this overview provides valuable strategies for classroom practice, it's important to seek professional advice and consult your school's specific policies when implementing DEI initiatives. At the heart of inclusive education are three interconnected pillars that work together to create equitable learning environments. Think of these as the foundation upon which everything else is built. The first pillar is differentiation. This is about adapting what we teach, how we teach it, and how students demonstrate their learning to meet the diverse needs in our classrooms. The second pillar, feedback, focuses on providing guidance that's both effective and equitable, building confidence in every learner. And the third pillar is advocacy, championing inclusive practices not just in our own classrooms, but pushing for systemic change across our schools. When these three pillars work together, they create learning environments that don't just accommodate diversity, they celebrate it and leverage it as a strength. Carol Tomlinson reminds us that effective teaching keeps both individuals and content in mind simultaneously. This is the essence of differentiation. We can differentiate in three key areas. Content differentiation is about what students learn. This might mean offering varied reading materials at different levels, giving students some choice in content, or modifying vocabulary lists to match readiness levels. Process differentiation focuses on how students make sense of that content. Learning stations, flexible grouping, and graphic organizers are all powerful ways to support different learning approaches. Product differentiation is about how students demonstrate their learning. Choice boards, tiered projects, and multimedia presentations allow students to show what they know in ways that play to their strengths while still challenging them to grow. The key here is that differentiation isn't about lowering expectations. It's about providing multiple pathways to reach high standards by acknowledging that students have different abilities, interests, and learning styles. When it comes to supporting English language learners, we need both language support and cultural responsiveness working hand in hand. On the language support side, visual aids like infographics and diagrams can bridge comprehension gaps. Tiered assignments let us create tasks with varying language complexity so all students can access the content. And multimodal instruction, offering content through text, audio, video, and hands-on experiences, helps build vocabulary in context. Cultural responsiveness is equally critical. We need to activate prior knowledge by connecting new concepts to students' cultural experiences. Including diverse perspectives means incorporating literature and examples from various cultures into our curriculum, not just during special cultural events. And we must adapt our communication methods to respect different cultural preferences around directness, formality, and classroom interaction. Remember, these strategies need to be tailored to your specific student population. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to cultural responsiveness. Creating welcoming environments for all gender identities requires intentional practice across several areas. Language matters enormously. Using inclusive terms like everyone or students instead of binary language sets the tone for your classroom. It's a small change that sends a powerful message about who belongs. Grouping strategies should balance individual and collaborative work while consciously varying leadership opportunities. We want to avoid patterns where certain students always end up in leadership roles, while others are consistently overlooked. The curriculum materials we choose should reflect various gender identities and challenge stereotypical roles. When students see themselves represented in what they read and study, it validates their identities and expands everyone's understanding. Finally, inclusive pedagogy means employing relational approaches that connect content to the diverse experiences students bring to the classroom. Supporting equity isn't just about adding content, it's about fundamentally rethinking how we teach. Artificial intelligence is opening new possibilities for differentiation, but there's a crucial principle to understand. AI should enhance teacher expertise, not replace professional judgment. AI can automate routine tasks like basic grading and administrative work, freeing up valuable time for the work that truly requires human insight and connection. Personalized learning platforms can adapt to each student's unique pace, style, and needs in ways that would be impossible for even the most dedicated teacher to manage manually. And AI can help generate culturally relevant and accessible learning materials more efficiently. However, teachers remain essential for making nuanced decisions about student needs, building relationships, and providing the human element that no algorithm can replicate. Think of AI as a powerful tool in your toolkit, not a replacement for your professional expertise. Moving to our second pillar, let's talk about what makes feedback truly effective and equitable. Effective feedback needs to be clear and encouraging, using straightforward language while highlighting strengths alongside areas for growth. It should focus on improvement by providing actionable steps students can actually take, not just pointing out what's wrong. Timeliness matters because feedback is most useful while the work is still fresh in students' minds. We also need to vary our feedback formats to meet diverse needs. Some students benefit from written comments, others from verbal conferences, and still others from visual or recorded feedback. Perhaps most importantly, we should engage students in the feedback process itself. When students learn to self-assess and peer review, they develop metacognitive skills that serve them far beyond any single assignment. The research is clear. Effective feedback accelerates progress for all students, regardless of their background, but only when it's delivered with equity in mind. Culturally intelligent feedback requires us to adapt our approach to ensure our message is received as intended, regardless of a student's background. Start by checking your own biases. We all have them, and they can unconsciously influence how we assess performance and deliver feedback. Regular self-reflection is essential. Building psychological safety comes before critical feedback. Students need to trust that you have their best interests at heart before they can hear and act on constructive criticism. This is especially important across cultural differences. Adjust your communication style based on cultural preferences. Some cultures value direct feedback, while others find it confronting. Learn about your students' backgrounds and adapt accordingly. Be aware of power dynamics and how they affect how feedback is received and interpreted. Avoid microaggressions by focusing on specific behaviors rather than making assumptions based on cultural background. Finally, always check for understanding. Ask students to reflect on or paraphrase the feedback to ensure they've genuinely understood what you're communicating. Our third pillar, advocacy, begins with awareness but must extend to action at both classroom and systemic levels. In your classroom, advocacy looks like incorporating diverse materials from various cultures, using inclusive language that affirms all identities, and designing lessons using universal design principles so they're accessible to all learners from the start. Systemic change requires a different kind of advocacy. Establish protocols for co-planning with colleagues to share inclusive practices. Champion professional development that's content-focused rather than superficial or performative. Partner with families and advocacy groups to understand community needs and build support. And advocate for equitable resource allocation so all students have access to quality materials and opportunities. Advocacy can feel uncomfortable because it sometimes means challenging existing systems and speaking up when we see inequity. But it's essential if we're serious about creating truly inclusive schools. Sustainable change requires intentional planning, consistent measurement, and ongoing adjustment. Let me break this down into practical steps. For implementation, start small. Choose just 1 or 2 differentiation techniques to focus on initially. Provide feedback in multiple formats. Collaborate with colleagues who share your commitment to inclusive practice. As you gain confidence, you can expand your repertoire. Measuring success means tracking engagement across different student groups. Are all students participating and progressing? Monitor whether achievement gaps are reducing over time. And importantly, collect student feedback on your practices. They're the best source of information about what's working and what isn't. Your action planning should include specific, measurable goals with clear implementation timelines. Schedule regular reflection points, perhaps monthly or quarterly, to assess progress and make adjustments. Remember, this is a journey, not a destination. Inclusive practice evolves as we learn more about our students and as our communities change. Creating inclusive classrooms through differentiation, feedback, and advocacy isn't just good practice. It's essential for ensuring every student has the opportunity to thrive. These strategies work together to build learning environments where diversity is genuinely valued and every student feels they belong. Thank you for investing time in this professional learning. For more resources on inclusive education and positive learning environments, visit thepositivelearner.com. And remember, while these strategies provide a strong foundation, always consult with your school leadership and seek professional advice when implementing new DEI initiatives in your specific context.